listening to the AZREIA Show. If you're looking for quality real estate investing information that you can trust, you've found it. Stay tuned and join the tens of thousands of members that have already benefited from AZREIA, your home for education, market information, support, and networking opportunities that will advance your real estate investing career.
So we have Tom Cole, Director of Arizona Registrars for Contractors, with us here today. So, Tom, thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
And before we get started, just give us a brief background or depiction of the role of ROC in, real estate.
Well, the Arizona Registrar of Contractors is a cabinet-level state agency, so it's my privilege to serve on the governor's cabinet. Been in Arizona statute since 1931, so it's a very long-standing, coming up on our 100-year anniversary in a few years. We're here to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the public by promoting quality construction by Arizona contractors. So we are in charge of making sure that the construction industry in Arizona is fairly regulated, and that the goal is customer satisfaction through quality construction. Mm-hmm. And that's in the residential and commercial realm.
That's great. That's good because, as homeowners, when we hire out for a contractor, we want to know that there's some oversight, and that's where your department comes into play.
Absolutely. You'll probably hear me repeat our website a few times today.
Go for it. Mm-hmm.
roc.az.gov. The first thing you should do when you're looking to hire a contractor is go to our website and investigate that name of that entity, the name that you're given, to make sure that they're licensed and they're properly licensed in the scope.
Okay.
You don't want to hire a painter to do your plumbing. It's just, that there are contractors out there that will gladly oblige you if you need more done than you've originally contracted for, and you really need to make sure they're licensed within the scope of work that you're trying to get done.
Okay. And what kind of license is that? Because I see that all the time, right? I'm licensed floor. Hey, but I can do your electric and I can do, Right.
Mm-hmm. So, general contractors have the ability to subcontract to all different trades. That's the point of being a general contractor, that you understand the industry well enough and you have that authority to subcontract out to electricians, plumbers, etc. If you're a carpentry framer and you're licensed to be a carpenter, then the only subcontracting you can do is to another identically licensed contractor.
Okay, so another frame.
So a framing contractor can hire another framing contractor to assist on a job for the framing of that project. A C11 electrician, electrical contractor, same deal. So if for some reason a licensed contractor offers to do work beyond what they're licensed for, they're working out of scope, and that's a violation of our law.
Okay.
And what about, so when it's a GC license and they hire their subs, do the subs have to be licensed?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's important. So if a general contractor hires an unlicensed entity to do an aspect of a project, it's a violation of the law called aiding and abetting. So you're aiding and abetting an unlicensed entity to enter into construction in Arizona, and that's a Class 1 misdemeanor. 6 months in jail, up to $2,500 fine.
Wow. Well, this is very important because just being in the business as real estate investors, so I'm very glad you're here to, make everything straight here because I have a bunch of questions. So, so that unlicensed subcontractor doesn't fall under the GC's work.
So the GC is responsible. Okay. The general contractor in all instances is responsible for the work of their subs. That's the liability and risk you take on when you become a general contractor. So if I have a contract as a homeowner, I have a contract with a general contractor for a remodeling project, and the flooring subcontractor comes in and makes an error, puts in the wrong product or doesn't meet the stipulations in the contract, then I'm going to the general. My complaint is with the general. It might extend down to that subcontractor based on the proceedings, but my beef is with the general contractor. That's who I wrote the contract with. It's his responsibility to sub out properly, and he's responsible for the quality of work of the subcontractor.
So basically a chain of command. Right?
Absolutely.
So my contractor is with the GC, so I'm going to address all of my concerns to the GC, and then he'll address those concerns with the flooring.
My family, we just did a flooring project in our house. We used a major name home improvement company. They subcontract out to a flooring company.
Mm-hmm.
If I had a problem in the quality of workmanship, they did a great job, by the way, but if I had a problem in the quality of workmanship, my complaint goes directly to the major home improvement company that's a general contractor in the state of Arizona. I'm not going directly to that flooring sub who did our job.
Cool.
So, and we kind of didn't even go over this. So your background. So what like it's like 2 pages here. All right, of great stuff. So, you're the head of ROC. Okay. You also, I liked things how you mentioned how you balance budgets. You handled the divided government. I thought that was very impressive. Board of directors on the National Association of State Contractor Licensing Agency. Deputy chief of Goodyear Fire Department. Paramedic instructor. Man, it goes on and on, man.
I've been in government a long time.
I bet you're very safe.
Well, I'm an Arizona native, and I love our state. I really care about good government, and that's my background as government administrator. I was privileged to be a Glendale firefighter for 20 years before I went to Goodyear.
Oh, God. Okay.
And so 20 in Glendale, 8 in Goodyear. When I went out to Goodyear, it was as a loaned executive to help them in a reorganization. So Glendale just loaned me over there.
Oh, wow.
I was supposed to stay 6 months, and I resigned and went to work for Goodyear and stayed for 8 years. So,
okay.
No offense, Glendale. I love my Glendale, and I still live in the city of Glendale. And matter of fact, I'm on the Glendale Planning Commission, so I do my civic involvement as well. But no, I think my background in government administration gives me a strong reference point for this job. We're 100 strong in the ROC. Just about 40 of us are in the field doing investigations. Probably 2/3 of those are doing investigations on workmanship standards, on the quality of work. And then the other third are investigating unlicensed entities in construction. So taking care of my team and my people is my number one goal. Obviously, that coincides with enforcing Title 32, Chapter 10 of the Arizona Revised Statutes.
And for those listening, Tom has a nice large rule book right in his hand.
It's our guidebook. It's our everyday reference. So
love it. So one thing that's important to Marcus and I, and then that we press upon our members, especially when they're getting into real estate investing or starting a business. It's and with your background and all the success you've had, one thing that we didn't mention is you were married for 36 years.
Going on 37. It'll be 37 this year, this month. I make sure I got that in my calendar. No, my lovely wife and I have been married almost 37 years, and she spent 21 of those years in the police department. She retired in 2019 as detective sergeant for the Glendale police department. Let me get that right. And
so public safety is in the family.
Yeah, and now, ironically, she's been working the last 6 years as a arson investigator, and now she's a fire plans examiner for the city of Goodyear. So
amazing!
Wow.
Yeah, she's really she's on her second career and very successful at it. So I'm blessed.
Yeah, man. How important is that successful marriage in becoming successful?
I will tell you, I've seen lots of relationships in public safety, and it's a challenging career. To be married to a police officer is stressful, and it's you need to have patience and understanding, good communications. To be married to a firefighter is stressful and challenging. Firefighters go away for 24 or 48 hours, every few days, and so my family had to adjust to my absence during that time. So I give them a lot of credit. But my wife and I were married before either one of us got into public safety. And I think that was the key. We committed to each other, and then we helped each other attain these goals that we had for our careers. So, as proud as I am of being a firefighter all those years, I'm much more proud of my relationship with my wife and of my family.
Awesome, man.
Excellent.
Good for you. So I just wanted to point that out.
3 great kids, 2 grandkids, one starting kindergarten. I believe Thursday he meets his teacher. So I'm excited about that.
Okay.
Excited.
Because that was going to be one of my questions was how did you make that transition from public safety firefighter to being a part of ROC or over ROC?
No, Marcus, that's a great question. So one of the reasons that I was so attracted to the city of Goodyear and the opportunity there was the growth in the city of Goodyear. They are expanding dramatically, and the folks out there have done a good job. I just saw Mayor Pizzillo last week at a function, and I think the world of his team out there. And through that concept of rapid expansion, we're buying apparatus, and building a fire truck is it takes 3 years these days.
Wow.
They're incredibly expensive. I think the last ladder truck I was responsible for the build was $1.3 million. It's probably closer to $2 million now. I'm guessing.
Wow.
But I also was privileged to be the lead on fire station design. And so I was, through the CMAR process, construction manager at risk, I was just step by step with our construction team and that estimator. So I got very intimate with the construction industry through being project lead for these fire stations. And I'm very proud of the stations we build out in Goodyear. And my peers have taken that to the next level, and they're really doing a great job out there. But I'm fascinated by the industry. Obviously I've hired my share of contractors over the years for my own projects, but really my strength and my roots are in government administration, and that's what this job calls for. Learning the construction industry is an everyday challenge for me, and like I said, I've got some fundamentals from my time in the fire service. My team's been great, and I've got an amazing team of experts on staff in their lanes that help me every day understand the industry more fully and give me great advice. And we have a team. It's a team environment. I don't sit there on high and make unilateral decisions. We work it out together and make sure I'm getting the best advice to make the best decision.
So kind of pairing into that, because you've been in some high leadership positions, what do you think is one of those key components to leadership that's important to you in order to have that relationship with, your team?
Well, I think that listening is a key. It's, once you get to a certain age and once you get to a certain level of experience in life, it's pretty easy to fall back on your own references, your own experiences, and make decisions unilaterally. And I resist that only every day. I want to hear the bad news first. I want to know what's going on. I don't take offense when somebody says something that disagrees with a position that I've staked out, because I want to know all aspects of a position before I make a decision. So I think listening and taking good advice is a key aspect of leadership. Showing up every day, being there, being present in the now. You may have aspirations for other things in life, whether it's in your private life or in your career, but live in the now, be present in the day. So many distractions in life. I wear 2 phones around with me everywhere I go. There's constant distractions. And I think investing in people, investing in that time you have together, being present is really. I used to have a boss in the fire department, and we'd go into his office. I was, at one point in time, I was an employee representative, and we'd have time with this chief. And he had the habit of, while he was meeting with us, of pulling out his shoe shine box and polishing his boots. And, I liked the guy, and we did good work together. But I just said, Chief, if you need this time to shine your shoes, then I'll reschedule with you.
Right.
And I was respectful and polite, but I just said, be in the now, be present. If you're going to be meeting with me and you're going to be doing this the whole time, then I don't think I've got your full attention. And I don't think that we're going to do the best work we can together. So I try and be present in the now as much as I can. I'm not perfect, but just invest in people.
That's huge, because especially, people are so distracted. I mean, that goes a long way. That will really make you stand out. Plus, you really want to understand what you're doing, especially as a leader and who you're talking to, what's going on. Very well said. I was listening to a podcast. Steve Harvey was on it. And in today's day, everyone's big on anxiety, or always thinking about the future and the past. And he's like, just live within the 24 hours. Exactly what you said. That's why it just reminded me of that.
Yeah, he's an intuitive person. I mean, I know he's a comedian, but he's got little life lessons along the way. I've listened to some of his stuff. He's really
listen to George Janko podcast.
Okay.
Anyways, so in AZREIA show. So, but yes, no, great. So how'd this lead to working with the governor? Like, did you apply for the position, or did you get requested?
So, I have been retired for about a year and a half, and I was interested in finding something. I had a lot of fun. We have an annual fishing trip with the firefighters. I caught the fish of my life. I caught a 200-pound bluefin tuna. I mean, I had a blast for about 18 months, but I was itching to do something. I really think that I left something on the table when I retired. And complicated deal, but with the public safety retirement system, I basically had an expiration date when I had to leave. And so long and short of it is I have an associate, a friend, who I had kind of said, I'm interested in looking for something. And about that time, there was some turmoil with the governor's appointees, nominees, and having trouble getting confirmed by the Senate, and the ROC position had become open. And a friend of mine who works in organized labor said, I think you'd be a good ROC director. Give me your resume. So I did. He submitted it to the governor's transition team. Got a phone call from Mike Hayner on the transition team. Scheduled me for an interview, went into the executive tower and had an interview.
Wow.
Walked away from that feeling like, well, I told him who I was. I told him how I feel about things. And next thing you know, I was getting a text from the operations director of the governor's staff. You're going to get a phone call within the hour. I suggest you answer it. Next thing I know, I was on the phone with Governor Hobbs. She offered me a position. So
awesome. Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah. Now, what about the confirmation process, right? Because that's pretty stringent.
Yeah, I was nominated into this position and started work on October 2nd of 2023. And the first thing we battled right out of the chute was continuation of the agency. So if I digress just a minute on that. Sure. So every state agency has, by what's termed by statute or Title 41 as a termination date. They have a euphemism, they'll call it a sunset, or they'll say you're up for continuation. But the statute says termination of your agency if you're not approved by the Senate. So we were up in 2024 for continuation, and that was a challenge. We had to meet with appear before several Senate and House committees, and express our reason for being, our track record, answer to questions, concerns, and then get through that really extensive process of vetting through the Senate in particular, and get a full vote. So we got 8-year continuation. They were threatening all agencies with 2 years of continuation if you didn't have a full performance audit. The ROC hasn't had a full performance audit in over 10 years, and I welcomed it. I asked for a full performance audit. Now, the Auditor General is quite busy, and so we'll get assigned our turn in line. But I opened up and was very transparent about how much better the ROC is now than we were back in 2014. And we demonstrated that in a number of ways, and we were really fortunate and pleased with that 8-year continuation. 10 years is the maximum. And so 8 years was as much as anybody got granted in that cycle in the last session of the legislature. So we got through that challenge. And then director nomination, director confirmation. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that's happened with divided government is the Senate reconfigured the way they vet director nominations. And they have the Senate Committee on Director Nominations. That's a new committee over the last 2 sessions, I believe. In prior years, you would go to what was called the Committee of Reference, and that is a committee. We were Senate Commerce, because the Commerce and Construction fit together. So there was some familiarity and understanding of the track record of the agency with that commission, or committee, excuse me. But the Director Nominations Committee now takes every single nominee, and they've been rough on the directors. I'm not speaking out of turn. They've been rough on director nominations. Several of the nominees, now a lot have gotten through, but several nominees have gotten shot down by the we call the DINO committee, Director Nominations Committee. Long story short, I'm sorry. I did finally go through in late March of this year, and I got the full Senate confirmation on early April. Of this year. So yeah, it was a interesting process. I wouldn't necessarily volunteer to go through it again. It did take a lot of time. So, going from late 23 to all the way to
25,
almost mid 25 for the confirmation process is quite a long time.
Wow.
And it is something that, again, an important part, and it's in statute, so it needs to occur. But that long, drawn-out process was a challenge when you're really trying to focus on the mission of the agency.
So let's get into real estate investing a little bit. So what, just off the top of your head, any advice for the real estate investor?
So where we touch, a touch point for us is I'll use the euphemistic term, house flipping.
Yep.
Common term, and obviously there's been folks, that have made a career out of fixing up houses and selling them, acquiring a property, fixing it up and selling it, streaming, mainstream media.
Right.
It's a big entertainment factor, and it's a part of the industry. So some challenges we have. By statute, homeowners are exempt from the requirement to hire a general contractor. They can do owner builder. They can be their own contractor. It's permissible to be your own and hire your own subcontractors to work on your own home. Where the rub is by statute, that home, for you to act as your own general contractor, needs to be your primary home.
Gotcha.
And once a certificate of occupancy is issued, if you have to vacate, if you're doing that extensive a renovation, it has to be your primary home for 12 months before it can be either used for sale or rent.
Okay.
So I think that's where the industry could use some education. I imagine there's lots of real estate investors out there with the intent of acquiring a rundown property, bringing it up to code, bringing it up to aesthetic standards, and then selling it for a profit. Makes the world go round.
Right.
But by law, if that's not your primary residence for 12 months, then you're in violation of statute. And that's, again, class 1 misdemeanor, up to 6 months in jail. I think the first fine's $1,000. Up to $2,500. If we get a complaint about someone engaged in this unlawful practice, and we investigate, and they're in the middle of the project, we can actually assess them $2,500 a day until they demonstrate to us that they've got a general contractor.
Wow.
So it can get quite expensive if somebody is egregiously violating statute.
So that's why education is very important.
It's hugely important. So if you've lived in your house for years and decide you're going to fix it up and sell it, you can do that, and you can be your own general contractor. If you've lived in that house for over 12 months and you decide that that's what you want to do, then you're within the law. But if you just pick up a property and decide that you're gonna be the one that hires all the subs and turn around and sell it for a profit, then that contract for sale or short-term rental advertisement or a longer-term rental advertisement, that's prima facie evidence that you were never intended to occupy it as your primary residence, and it would be a violation of Arizona statutes.
I guess like a big question around here is like, so it's like, hey, you got to pull a permit for anything under, was it $2,000 or what's
so
the?
I want to make that distinction between, you said permit, and that's a huge distinction. The Registrar of Contractors does not issue or enforce building permits.
Okay.
That's local jurisdiction. That's your local code official, your local building official, whatever jurisdiction you're in. If you're not in a city, then you're going to have a county entity to deal with. But if you're living in a city, a town or a city, then there's going to be a code official that issues building permits, and whatever form of the International Building Code they have adopted, that's the rules you have to follow.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we don't get in the middle of code issues. Matter of fact, we don't like to come in on our job site investigations typically until the project's finished. And then you've got a problem with workmanship, then that's when we take over. We're there for workmanship quality issues primarily when code is signed off and typically a certificate of occupancy has been issued.
Okay.
So that's a big distinction. Now, as far as licensure goes, to be a licensed contractor, if you engage in construction of anything over $1,000 in labor and materials, you need to be licensed. If a building permit's required, even if it's under $1,000, you need to be licensed. Also, in that exemption, you can't be doing plumbing, you can't be doing electrical work, and steam fitting. There's several other tiny exceptions to that. But the intent there is a term I'm going to use, which is a generic term they've used a long time. It's called the handyman exemption. It doesn't say that in statute, but for reference, people understand it to be that. To be a handyman means you're doing minor home improvement stuff. And even at that level, if it's over $1,000 in total value, you need to be licensed.
Okay.
And what is a common complaint you get? Like, where are the common complaints?
So most of our complaints that we investigate are on workmanship, on poor workmanship. So that, hey, it met code. It's not an unsafe situation necessarily, but it doesn't meet the aesthetics in the contract, or it doesn't meet the manufacturer's installation on a particular system, whether it's a shower system or, a way a toilet was installed. Could be any number of things across 130 different license scopes that we license contractors for. So what we do is do research on manufacturers' recommendations and industry standards, and we compile that into our what we call our workmanship standards.
Okay.
So those have been long-standing, and matter of fact, I'm happy to announce that we have revamped them for the first time in years, a number of years. So we brought them up to speed using industry, bringing industry in and reviewing the workmanship standards and the industry manufacturers' data. And now we're going into the process of rulemaking. So what we're going to do is reference the new workmanship standards in the Arizona Administrative Code. This should have been done a long time ago, and we're tackling it. So I'm very proud of my team, very proud of our legal team. Chance Peterson, my general counsel, has led the way on the legal side. Jeff Wills, chief of compliance, and his team are the ones that revamped the standards. They've done a great job. So we're going to go through that, and there'll be a public commentary. We'll have open book on the new standards. But that's our primary complaint, is complaints of workmanship. Abandonment is another aspect where a contractor just allegedly walked away from a project. So we do investigate cases of abandonment.
Can I touch on that?
Absolutely.
I have, big thing here that we talk about as real estate investors is deposits and contracts with contractors, right? Should you put any money, a third down, half down? And contractors have taken my deposit and disappeared over the years, right? So is there a way investors can protect themselves in those scenarios, or are they just bad actors and they're just gone?
Well, there are unscrupulous business people out there, unfortunately, and they taint the industry. But some red flags, as far as statute goes, the only stipulations in contract, in law, in construction are for payment, are for pool projects. Swimming pool projects are regulated as far as the amount that the maximum that can be asked for as a down payment. It's 25%. And then progressive payments are allowed through the process. Once they get to rebar and different stages, then they can expect a progressive payment. But as far as other construction, there's no law that says, hey, they can only take so much down. But some big red flags are they want cash.
Yeah.
A big red flag is they're asking for a substantial portion of the total contract value up front. Most legitimate contractors will have a reasonable down payment.
Right.
And I'm not going to say a number, but something that's reasonable. And then they'll expect maybe a midpoint progressive payment.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the job, when it's signed off and you're satisfied with the work, there's a final payment. That's not uncommon. By the way, there are 9 elements of a contract by statute. So understanding in Title 32, all 9 aspects of what a lawful contract must contain, it's in the law.
Yeah.
And a lot of contractors, unfortunately, don't have every single aspect that's lawfully required in their contracts. Okay. So if you're entering into a contract, especially one of larger dollar value, it's important to understand the 9 elements of a contract and make sure that your contract contains them all. The last element is they have to have our contact information for the ROC in the contract in case they have a problem. They need to know about us and reference us.
And in all this, an investor could just go on the ROC website. You can see your standing, complaints, anything.
roc.az.gov. And we have so much information on there. This entire book, annotated
it's
PDF,
on the website?
Is on the website.
Perfect.
Our search engine is marvelous. You can research the last 2 years on all 59,000, almost 60,000 licenses that are active in the state of Arizona right now.
Wow. So there's no reason why you should be hiring a bad contractor, right? Because you can go to the website.
Marcus, the reality is, folks take word of mouth. They'll take a reference from their brother-in-law or a friend at work, coworker. Somebody had a decent experience, and then the problem is if they're unlicensed, a few things are in play here. You don't have the protections.
Right.
So if it's a residential contract and something goes wrong with a licensed contractor, you may have access to the residential contractor's recovery fund. In that, you can recoup up to $30,000 per complaint. If there's multiple complaints against a license, the cap is $200,000. But there's an opportunity there if you are wronged by a contractor and they are found through our process to have wronged you. You may qualify for that. Absolutely doesn't count if you're dealing with an unlicensed entity. The other thing with unlicensed entities, though, is those workers that they bring with them don't have the worker protections that most folks have come to expect. Industrial insurance, workers' compensation, Social Security, all those things that most of us, when we work, think are part of the program. Those folks aren't protected by that. So one of our goals is to maintain worker protections. We work very closely with the Industrial Commission as well. Great relationship with them. But it's really important. You're going to pay more for a licensed contractor typically than you are for these unlicensed entities. Some of them are going to be fly-by-night, and you're really at risk. You have recourse when you hire a licensed contractor. You can hold them accountable.
And it goes a long way because, especially as our fix and flippers, yes, we want to make a profit, but at the end of the day, it might be more expensive, like you said, to go with a GC, but it's the right way to go. It's going to save you headaches. Even when you go to sell the house and if something goes wrong in the future with that family, it can come back to you. So I think it's well worth it. You just got to buy a little bit cheaper than you normally would if that's your thing. So
yeah, the advice from us would be to hire
100%
a general contractor. If you are going to turn a property like that and you don't intend to live in it as your primary home, then hire a general. It's bad for the industry too.
Yeah.
Those projects are rightfully in the lane of general contractors, and they're being denied an opportunity to make a living themselves by folks taking that role on unlawfully by themselves.
Well, it sounds like ROC is heavily in the space of consumer protection, right? So you want to make sure that the homeowner or whoever the contractor hires or whoever hires the contractor is protected in the event that there is due recourse that need to be taken or something like that.
So consumer protection is a big part of what we do, making sure that contractors are following those minimum workmanship standards and that they are following the letter of the contract that they sign with their customer. But the other aspect of what we do is also protecting our contractors and making sure that they get due process.
Right.
One of the things that I like to say is this is a pretty thick book, but I don't think the word perfect is anywhere in this book. And so there are, at times, customers have unrealistic expectations of perfection when it comes to construction in the state of Arizona. And so we are there to make sure that contractors are treated fairly. So we sit kind of in the middle of this relationship. And our goal is customer satisfaction. And our customer are the complainants. That's typically a homeowner or business owner, and also the respondent to that complaint. And those are our licensed contractors. And we're really there to make sure they're both satisfied. That all along the way in these complaints, the first thing we do when we get a complaint and it's assigned to an investigator is contact the contractor and say, your license has a complaint against it. Are you familiar with this customer? So we can orient them to what's been alleged.
Right.
And then we work tirelessly to try and bring those two parties together, communicate. A lot of times by the time they've come to us to complain, then the relationship has broken down and communication is poor. So we work really hard to develop those relationships and enhance communication. A lot of our cases are settled very early on and don't go through the full process of, issuing directives and issuing citations. If we can catch them early, get the communication going, get customer satisfaction, then all of us are happy.
Amazing. And I'm going to kind of segue really quick because when we talked about pools, that's a big thing. We deal with pools. And I was actually just walking a property the other day, and you could totally see that they filled in the pool, but so I was like, what's the, for our listeners, because we, sometimes they're filled in, you're about to buy a house that's been filled in, or maybe you want to fill it in. I know there's a right and a wrong way to do that. And can you talk about?
Yeah, I'd say that's a little bit out of my wheelhouse.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I would say.
Is it more of a permit thing, or?
Well, I mean, obviously that I would hire a licensed contractor, excavator to backfill that pool, somebody that knows what they're doing. Yeah. But yeah, I don't have a lot of personal experience in that realm.
Wrong department.
It's all good. No, it's all good.
I'm trying to think of something we can take off of.
So what are you excited about in your department right now?
Well, I mentioned the workmanship standard rulemaking. That's a big deal for us. We haven't changed these standards in a number of years, so we're very proud that we've got that draft done. And entering into that rulemaking is a big deal. I mentioned in our casual conversation workforce development. One of our missions with the ROC is to educate the public. We have a mandate in Chapter 10 to educate the public on issues regarding construction, current events. And nothing is more important to the construction industry than workforce development.
Yes.
It's been stated that for every 4 craftspeople that are leaving the industry, only 1 is replacing them. So we work really hard with our technical programs. We're out in even the junior highs, just trying to understand kids and get them to understand that there's a future in the construction industry. And there's so many different aspects, and it's getting so much more technical. So we're really working hard to educate the public and educate young people on the value of considering a career in the industry. To that effect, we've got an Arizona Town Hall coming up, and it's a privilege to work with Arizona Town Hall. Working with Sun Construction, ADOT, we're putting together an Arizona Town Hall on the 30th of October, and we're going to bring in stakeholders from across the industry, and we're going to bring in young people who aspire to a career. And we're going to have frank, small group conversations about what are our challenges and what are potential fixes to our problems. Right. So we're very excited about that opportunity working with them.
Because that really got overlooked, right? Because I know growing up, if you guys see me on camera, I have a lot of gray hair, but growing up, it was always, there was an option for trade school, learn how to work with your hands, be a contractor, licensed electrician, plumber, or something like that. But a lot of that has gone by the wayside. So I can understand, the plight with workers in that area of workforce.
Yeah, I think that, there is a resurgence in technical education in high schools and in trade schools transitioning out of high school. But there was a gap there. I remember having auto shop and upholstery and things like that because I'm an older person. But a lot of that, I understand, went away. And we did, I think, culturally spend a lot of time talking to kids about the success is registered by your degree, your 4-year degree. And I just think that there are so many opportunities. College isn't for everybody,
right?
But even folks in college programs, we deal with Cochise College, talk with their construction management program. We've got licensees coming right out of that program that we've helped get licenses.
Excellent.
So it's there's so many different aspects of outreach required. And Cindy Casals, our assistant director, Maggie Roby's our outreach coordinator, do a great job. We're doing emphasis on tribal outreach. The rules are different on tribal land. They don't have the same requirements. But if an Arizona licensed contractor goes on to tribal land and performs a contract, they can come to us. The customer can come to us if there's a problem.
Got it.
We do have jurisdiction over the contractor if a licensed contractor does work on tribal land.
That's
exciting stuff. So as we wrap up, any last words for our members?
Hire a licensed contractor. It's just the bottom line. There are so many different kinds of people in construction out there. Some of them are ne'er-do-wells. They're just frankly out there to steal your money, and they'll start a project and they'll walk. We just put a fella in jail. We contributed significantly to his incarceration. Fraud and theft exist in the construction industry, and if you think the deal sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Right.
You may get lucky 1 or 2 times, but it's probably gonna catch up with you. So our advice is to hire a licensed contractor. Go to our website, roc.az.gov. Plethora of information in there. Great search engine to research your contractor. Make sure they're in the scope of work that you need for your contract. Make sure that contract has all the elements in it. I can go on, but we just think that the best thing to do is hire a professional that's properly licensed for the work that you need done. Build that into your business plan. Build that into your margins. We know it's going to cost you more, but if you do it right, you're not going to have the same kind of problems you're putting yourselves up for if you do it the wrong way.
Excellent. Well, Director Cole, it was a pleasure to sit down and speak with you. Give us that website one more time.
roc.az.gov.
Okay, so if you all are looking for licensed contractors, you want to vet your contractor, please go to that website. That way, that consumer protection is in place when you're doing your renovation, rehab, or whatever project you're taking on.
And I'll tell you, our team is there Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. We like our customer service hours between 8:30 and 4:30, just so we can properly serve customers. So we direct them to try and get within those. But doors are open 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, down at the executive tower of the city capitol, or the state capitol, excuse me. And we're available by telephone too. So if you get stuck on something, we'll give us a call and we'll help you through it.
Excellent.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So thank you to our loyal listeners for being loyal listeners to the AZREIA show. You all know what to do. Go directly to AZREIA, azreia.org, to get additional information about AZREIA. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the AZREIA Show with your hosts, Marcus Maloney and Mike Delprete. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you found this information valuable, head over to azreia.org and learn more about our community.